We've got a new project started here at V8 Speed and Resto. This is a 1969 Ford Fairlane Cobra with a 428 Cobra Jet engine. As you can see, we've started the disassembly on this car, and the glass is out, the interior, and you'll notice that this is a unibody construction. It doesn't have a full frame that it sits on. The suspension bolts to the body. Right behind us is the nodular centered Ford 9-inch rear end. You can tell by this N stamped here or cast into the housing. That means that this is nodular iron. Also, these ribs indicate that this is the strong version of the 9-inch axle housing. And you'd only get that with a big engine car. So this being a 428 car, that's why it's got it. Going forward, you could see a couple different colors here. The exterior is red. It's actually code T, candy apple red, according to the door tag. And you got some tan or yellowish kind of stuff floating around. I believe that's a factory primer, because the red is the factory color for the car. And one of the giveaways, if you want to know if your car's been repainted or not, if you disassemble it this far and you find the adhesive here that was underneath the package tray and there's color below that, that's probably the original color. Because these things were sprayed and then obviously put together. And a lot of times if this was a repaint or a different color, deep down underneath this adhesive would be something else. So we're going to say that that's the original color, and it does match the tag. The formal roof line, right? So the shape of this window is different from a Torino. A 69 Torino, this would be more of a sloping fastback. But the Fairlane was kind of the coupe version, and it has what they call the former roof line. And that's what makes the Fairlane body style different from the Torino. Underneath, it does share some of the same components of a Torino, but looking through to the inside, this car has been worked on before, and I said it's the original color being the candy apple red. This is not the original paint on the outside. This has rust repair and some crash damage repair all over it. For example, here on the floor, there's a patch panel that's been put in. You can see that little weld there. There's some welding in different spots on the floor, like as if this got straightened out. Take a look at where your heel would be behind the gas pedal. There's that big fold there in the floor, and that's not a factory contour. So that was a fix. So this thing got hit. There's more evidence up in the front. Here you can clearly see some evidence of respray. But as we start to dig deeper and look closer at the frame rails and a few things underneath, you can tell where things were sectioned together after it had been repaired. So what does that mean? You know, and in a restoration, you generally want to start with the nicest car you can, but you also want to start with a cool car. And this is a factory 428 Cobra Jet Fairlane Cobra. So again, it's not a high production car, but it makes it worth saving. So what we're going to do is find either original NOS new parts to reconstruct the lower structure, or we might find parts from another car, another original Ford that were not rusty. And if you take a look at like the top of the shock tower, for example, you can see these welds here. These are called compression resistant spot welds, where an electrode came in from the top and the bottom and squeezed that together under voltage to stick all that together. Well, that's important because that's how you fix this. If you want to change this, you drill those out and you can remove this piece, put another one in, and we have the proper tool to recreate those resistant spot welds. So everything that's here can be repaired or replaced. Looking at that inner apron on that side, there's kind of a diagonal fold mark that I'm not sure is a factory contour. I think that could be left over from the potential crash damage that it had. So there's going to be some good amounts of metal work done. Another area that I'm noticing is where the bottom of the radiator would be down here. We've got all kinds of body filler and grinding and evidence of welding. So this has been monkeyed with at some point. That'll be part of the restoration too. So the goal of the car is to have it look like an original Fairlane Cobra on the outside, But the owner does want to add a few things inside. This is a 4-speed car. We might put a 5-speed in it. It had a carburetor, probably going to do fuel injection. Looking at doing a rack and pinion steering unit and better suspension so that it drives better but still has that appearance. But of course the crown jewel of a Cobra Jet is behind you, and that is the 428 Cobra Jet V8 engine. And this is cool. This is the original motor, from what I know, to this car. I have not personally run all the numbers on it yet, but it is a 69 428 Cobra Jet. These were rated at 335 horsepower and 440 foot-pounds back in 1969. Kind of a neat detail up here on the intake manifold. It's an aluminum manifold, but this number is a little secret here. So you can see upside down it's a C6 AE, C6. The key to Ford part number deciphering is the first letter is a decade. So the C means the decade of the 60s. So this means that this intake manifold dates back to 60 something. Well, the next letter, the number 6, means it was a 1966. So although the car is a 69, the casting year when they designed this manifold is 1966. So that's a legitimate Ford part, and that's the trick to learning a little bit about Ford part number nomenclature. If this was E7, it would be a 1987. If it was a D, it would be in the 70s. So I know my Ford at home, I have a 62 Ford, those parts all start with C2 or maybe C1 from 61. So it's authentic, it's very cool. We got a tray or a table of some of the other parts as we pull this car apart. We like to bag and tag and label and then evaluate what is going to get repaired, what's going to get restored, what's going to get replaced. Here in our body shop, you can see some of the other sheet metal over there on stands as we're preparing that stuff to go to the blaster and get stripped as well. So that's kind of the overview of what's going to happen with our Fairlane Cobra. We invite you to check out the pictures on our website because we're going to document this whole thing in photos and videos. If you got an old car like this that needs rust repair, complete restoration, maybe a high performance engine build, we can help you out. You can always reach us at v8speedshop.com.